What is going on with all these Spider-Man villains? The more news we get about this movie, the more villains seem to be joining the cast, and this has got some people concerned because the movie seems to be getting really big, since it also includes the Punisher and the Hulk. But there seems to be a reasonable explanation. Let's take a couple minutes to dive into what's going on, what I think is really going to happen with all these villains, and explore a couple of possibilities that should be considered. Well, the Spider-Man news has been coming at us fast and furious, and with all these new peeks at the brand new costume for the upcoming film, well, one thing that's kind of getting lost in that discussion is all the villains that are apparently going to be part of this project. Now, at this point, there are a lot of details that have not been completely confirmed, but we are hearing about a library of potential villains showing up, and this has, well, garnered some negative attention, but I want everybody to relax. Now, at this point, we've heard a lot of stuff. We know the Hulk is going to be part of this movie, we know the Punisher is going to be part of this movie, we know Sadie Sink has been cast in an unnamed role, and we've heard multiple reports that Mr. Negative, along with his inner demons, could possibly be part of this, and that seemed to get confirmed a little bit with one of the logos on that armor personnel carrier we saw in that leaked set picture. Now, along with this, we've also heard a full library of Spider-Man villains could actually be part of this project. Now, for quite a while, we've been hearing some names kicked around, and we do have confirmation that the Scorpion will indeed be part of this project. That was actually confirmed earlier this week with the Hollywood Trades. But we're also hearing characters such as Tombstone, the Tarantula, Boomerang, and even Ramrod are all going to be part of the project. Now, many of you might notice, a lot of these villains are not what you would call household names when it comes to Spider-Man baddies. If you're a Spider-Man fan of the comics, well, some of them you know very well, but let's be real, the general public has no idea who Boomerang, Tombstone, Tarantula, or Ramrod actually are. And although many of them have been part of various animated Spider-Man projects, they're just not well known by people who don't read comics. Now, when you look at this, it can be a bit concerning, because this movie is starting to feel, well, overstuffed. And it very well might be. Now, some people have put together the possibilities that minus Mr. Negative being part of this film, that all of these villains are kind of being gathered by Tombstone to face off with Spider-Man, and they'll form some kind of villainous team to try to take down the wall crawler. But to me, I do not think that's what's going on here. Now, what I do think is going on is they are setting us up for one of the biggest montage scenes ever in Spider-Man history. The last we saw Peter Parker, he was taking to the streets of New York City. And I think Marvel Studios is going to provide us a look at what's been going on over the last couple of years for Spider-Man. What I think is going to happen is we're going to get a short scene to set up the whole film. And this scene will see Spider-Man facing off with multiple villains on the streets of New York. Now, this means we'll see him in short segments go toe-to-toe with each one of these baddies. But I don't think all of these characters will have a huge part of the film. I actually think if any of the characters have a bigger part of the film, it probably will be Scorpion, with Tombstone potentially being set up maybe to branch out and eventually be working for Wilson Fisk. Now, we did hear the Punisher is specifically targeting the Scorpion, and this will be the basis for the showdown between Peter and Frank Castle, because as many of you know, Frank likes to solve things on a more permanent basis, and obviously Peter Parker and Spider-Man really don't do things that way, and I think this will lead to the conflict. I actually think basically all of these villains will be very quick, one and done, and underused within the film, and the larger villain will more than likely be Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative has a much more of a behind-the-scenes sort of player aspect to him, and I think basically the heroes of this film with Spider-Man in the lead will be pitted against each other, with them eventually seeing they're being played and refocus on their primary villain, who ultimately I believe will likely be Mr. Negative and his inner demons. Now, this all falls into theory category, but to me, I just don't see a character like Ramrod or Boomerang leading a Spider-Man film as the baddie. Kevin Feige likes his villains that haven't been used, and Spider-Man has a huge library of basically A-list villains that haven't been touched, and these kind of names really don't live up to that spotlight. In any case, we're going to follow this really closely, but I don't want people to get overly concerned that the Spider-Man movie is getting overstuffed just yet. I trust Destin Daniel Cretton, and I think he's got a solid plan here, and he's going to take part of this movie to establish Peter's rise to fame in New York City, since everybody has forgotten who Spider-Man is, and that will see him facing off with multiple villains, maybe even more than we've already heard about, but most of them will basically be one and done. But until we know more, what do you guys think? Do you think many of these villains we're hearing about for Spider-Man Brand New Day will be short-term montage scene style villains? Or do you believe characters like Ramrod could play a big part in the upcoming Spider-Man movie? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Before we take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC news, and we want to bring you all the news truthfully and transparently so you're really in the know.